Talk about a crazy day. We've got wild stories plus your questions. So let's get started.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, you can handle the truth, but you can't handle the fact that this is worse than a bad freaking movie. I could have had a V8. I don't know. I could have had something. I could think of a number of things that would be more fun to deal with than SHTF, but that's what we got. It's right here. It's all over us, folks. SHTF. Are you prepared? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Okay, let's get into it. It is the Q&A. So I'm going to get the first half an hour. You guys get the second half an hour. We're going to have some fun. So get your questions into Jolene. She's going to be moderating everything. And don't forget that in the background is the Man. And one of these days, again, real soon, I think I'm going to have Man come back on, and he needs to answer some questions. But for now, we're just going to get into this bad movie. And one of the things about bad movies is they have a bad script. They have a bad premise. It doesn't make any sense, and it's only mildly entertaining. That's a bad movie. Well, that seems to be this SHTF that we've got. It's like a bad freaking movie. So today, Charles Nenner comes out and says, quote, 1/3 of the global population won't survive the next war cycle, end quote. And I thought, wow, there's your fear porn for you. Even I haven't made that dire of a prediction. Talk about your biblical prediction in a bad movie scenario to scare everyone. Oh my God, we're all going to die. I love Charles Nenner's economics. In fact, he was one of the first that I really started listening to with regard to cycles and waves, etc. That would have been back in like 2012. I started listening to Charles Nenner. Anyways, he comes out with this, talking about surviving the next war cycle. Thankfully, I totally disagree with Charles on this. It's going to be nasty, but we don't know what kind of war we're going to get. Are we going to get a limited war between Russia and Ukraine? Is it going to spread to Eastern Europe? Will it take off and spread into Taiwan with China and Taiwan and Japan and the US being involved? Will it turn into total world war? Will there be nuclear exchange or a total nuclear arsenal just dump? And that, of course, would kill probably all of us, not just a third. But the thing with war cycles, and I did want to bring this up, is with war comes typically famine in many places and disease in many places. They kind of go hand in hand. And so it depends on how bad the powers that be want to take us, how far down they want to take us in order to get their great reset started. That's my problem with this. So I want to take you on a little bit of that. And hey, Rudy, the urban aboriginal, I couldn't get to your phone call, brother. It was too close to the show. I was running around pulling my hair out, saw that you were calling. I was like, I can't get to you. I'll send you a message after the show. Okay, now back to the show. And thank you to everybody on Patreon again for doing the guerrilla funding, for coming here to patreon.com, signing up, and making sure that we have the funds to keep the lights on, the spam fresh, and our eye on the ball. So, Charles Nenner gives us some fear porn. 1/3 of the world is not going to survive the next war cycle. Let me give you another bad movie that became very popular. It was the Mad Max series starring Mel Gibson. At the beginning of his movie career, he played a cop, right? Dealing with the shutdown of the world, right? Mad Max, the original movie, there was gasoline, fuel, it was being delivered. There was some law enforcement, some government. It was barely hanging on. The people were kind of clinging to their civility. By the time you get to the Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, right? You've got guys with mohawks and assless chaps everywhere, and it was just a total nightmare looking for fuel. And then Beyond Thunderdome. Anyways, where are we at in this process? not quite into Mad Max. But let's talk about this. In third world countries, they're going to be the very first ones to see it. Europe, the United States of America, China, Japan, be okay. Countries like Brazil, India, they're second world. They're emerging market economies. They should be okay. But guess what happened in Sri Lanka, folks? Sri Lanka, they want to be an emerging market economy, trying to get to that superpower first world status, but they're not. Sri Lanka has been having supply issues, folks. Supply issues. Getting ships with food and other products that they need. They've been having protests. The other day, they were having food riots. And now they're defaulting on their debt, and they've run out of fuel. They are now starting Mad Max in Sri Lanka. I never thought I would see this day, folks. I always knew it was possible. But I never thought I would see the day when the world enters into this insanity. When we have it all, do we not? We have the ability to produce energy, fuel, whether it's with coal or oil or natural gas or nuclear, solar and wind. We have fuel, we have energy, we have electricity. We're supposed to be more civilized. Isn't humanity supposed to evolve upwards? It's supposed to. So why is it we're devolving? Why is it that countries can't maintain themselves? What is the problem? I'll tell you what the problem is, folks. It's corrupt government and corrupt, thieving, lying scum that runs government. There it is. Otherwise, the rest of us, we get along just fine. We treat each other well enough, even though there's occasional problems. We follow the rules, even though we occasionally break them. You know, just, you can't be perfect. Nobody's perfect. But you and me, we, the people, we do just fine. 99% of the day, you don't need government, right? In fact, the most interaction you and I normally get with government is a red light or a green light. Other than that, we don't need government. Sri Lanka, their government's absolutely failed them. Ukraine would be, folks, toast were it not for the United States, NATO, the United Kingdom, and the European Union throwing money at it and sending supplies. They would be far worse off than Sri Lanka. We have some huge issues, folks. Now, I say this is worse than a bad movie, right? Worse than a bad movie. This is incredible. This is incredible. Crackpot lounge singer. I'm going to say left-wing lunatic fruitcake, right? Nina Jankowicz. She submitted her resignation letter. Now, who is Nina Jankowicz? Remember, she's the one that said, who do I have to screw, only she used the F word, who do I have to F to get famous and powerful? I mean, this is, yeah, and she became very famous because we all know who she is. She almost became extremely powerful because she was to be the czar, the leader of the disinformation governance board of the Department of Homeland Security. In other words, she was going to be the head of the Ministry of Truth, right? The Ministry of Propaganda is what they called it in the Nazi Party, headed by Joseph Goebbels. She was going to be censoring us, telling us who can and who can't speak and what you can and can't say. Nina Jankowicz, who was wrong about everything she ever spoke about, was going to be the arbiter of truth. In other words, she would never tell us the real truth, and she would always allow only the lies to exist. Well, she resigned. You bet. Unbelievable, right? And here's what she says, right? She claims that her work for the Ministry of Truth, right, is vital and necessary. That work is vital. That work is necessary. And I guess she was just too much, right? She had too much baggage. Too much baggage. Well, shortly after that, right, and about the same time, Joe Biden, the Biden regime came out and says, hey, the Disinformation Governance Board has to be halted. after just 3 weeks of trying to introduce this idea that the government should be censoring us, when we have a First Amendment, folks, that says free speech, right? The right to say what you want, think what you want, believe what you want, practice religion, live your life as you want, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, a hallmark, a foundational block, the cornerstone of a constitutional republic. And Joe Biden wanted to go over there and take a crap on it. They tried, and we need to keep fighting it. You and I. See, this is where you and I come in. Are you prepared? All right, as much as someone can be prepared for nuclear war, I am. I've got the potassium iodide tablets. I've got all the stuff I need. I don't want to try and live through that. That would really suck. I could survive World War III. I'm not going to like it, right? Not countries and nations fighting, because that'll really cause all kinds of supply strains. It'll really cause rationing. It'll really cause big problems. This country, the United States of America, and indeed Europe and nowhere else in the world, have they been used to the idea of oil tankers being sunk, supply ships being sunk by the enemy? I mean, to try and fight World War III the way they did in World War II, sinking ships as fast as they can, destroying refineries left and right. This country doesn't know how to go to work and build things and rebuild them fast enough. Nobody does, right? That's why we don't fight wars like that anymore. It's just too damn destructive. I could survive that war though, but I don't want to, right? This is just a bad movie. Which dystopian movie is this? I was talking to Chris B. Bacon earlier today, and the movie Zardoz came up. This dystopian weird ass world where, believe it or not, Sean Connery, the venerable Sean Connery, played a long-haired, boot-wearing, banana hammock having, double six-gun shooting superhero. One of the worst movies of all time, right? It was a bad movie. We could get there, folks, where things are just so bad, because right now we have leadership in place in every country that is just doing the stupidest things they can. Right? Corporations are making the dumbest frickin' decisions you can imagine. Right? Schools, the military, media, making the stupidest decisions. It's like a bad movie. It's like, what good can come from bad decision after bad decision after bad decision after bad decision? Nothing but the worst can come of that. That's why you're a prepper. That's why we, right, have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, having a plan. That's what we're here for. That's why I keep coming to you guys every day. And I say, we got to pay attention and see what's happening next. I say, thank you for supporting the effort and hitting the thumbs up and sharing the video with others, right? We've got the email address up here, or internet address, right? We're the sane ones in the room. They used to say, oh, you preppers are radicals. You're crazy. We're now the most sane people on the planet. Not insane, the most sane. We make the most sense, saying, you know what, they're screwing everything up out here. Maybe a good idea for us to, have a little bit of backup plan all set. Now, this is another huge issue, and I hope you've got your questions into Jolene. Get them in the comment section over here. Jolene will get them, and at the second half of the hour, we'll be talking. Whew, folks, Michelle Bachmann used to be a representative and is now dean of a university. She had some thoughts on Joe Biden turning over U.S. sovereignty to the World Health Organization. And I'm going to continue to say that they can make that effort. But you and I, we need to stand up and fight it at every level with your senator first. The United States Senate is the only one that can ratify, folks, ratify a foreign treaty. Now, here's the deal, though. Treaties are to become law of the land, meaning they join the Constitution and they join all of our other laws. If a treaty is unconstitutional, then it should never be ratified. If a treaty demands that we surrender our sovereignty, it cannot stand. It is unconstitutional. This needs to be point number one. You don't sign anything that takes our sovereignty, that presumes authority over the American people and our laws. It is unconstitutional. Therefore, it should never be signed. And if it is signed, then the senators that sign that go, oh yeah, let's sign that, they need to be tried for treason, for signing a law with other nations trying to invalidate our nation, our constitutional republic. Right? It's good, though, that this is getting a lot of sunlight on it. Michelle Bachmann, good. Other senators are saying, hell no. There should be no way in hell, and it takes 66 votes, but there should be no way in hell, period, that this passes. Never should you surrender your sovereignty. Look at Europe. They said joining the European Union will not make you surrender your sovereignty as a nation. You still get to be a sovereign nation. It's just an economic union. Now they're forcing countries to take immigrants, or they'll sanction you and cost you money. Everything that you don't do to make a political organization happy, they'll sanction you. You see it where you live. If you have a homeowners association, an HOA, go ahead. Put a garden gnome on your lawn against the rules and see what happens. You find out how they aren't your friends and how your sovereignty, your property rights are affected by them. Same thing goes with any foreign treaty. Any treaty signed with another country is a threat to ours. That's why treaties should never, ever be signed lightly. And certainly if it calls for the surrender of any part of your sovereignty, no. And if it is unconstitutional, that is, any portion of it violates or presumes or could possibly be ever interpreted, no. You see, this is why we don't have any treaties with the United Nations that threaten our sovereignty, because of that risk and because it is truly unconstitutional at its face, right? If it's de facto unconstitutional, it's just done. Our proper, lawful, de jure rules, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, outweigh, they trump everything else. Unbelievable, folks. Now get this. After calls for conservation of electricity, and after their generators failed, Texas's grid, well, it survived the weekend, folks. I want to give you a reminder. It is only May the 18th. I just had to check the calendar. May the 18th. And the weekend was that rough? Everyone conserve. Generators failing left and right. How bad is it going to be when it gets actually hot in Texas? As if anyone goes, yeah, May, that's the hottest month in Texas. The hell it is. It's going to get a lot hotter, folks. Sweltering heat, sometimes humid as hell. Look out, folks. We've got some big problems, and it's just started. It is just started here. It's not going to get better, right? This is a bad movie. It really is. A lot of days I wake up and I'm like, okay, I check the bed. Everything's good in bed. And I'm like, okay, why is everything else stupid? Right? I go out in the living room, which is right behind me here. It's a small place, but I go out into the other areas and everything looks normal. Everything looks fine. But once you step outside the prepared mind bunker, it's like, what the hell happened? Now get this. Biden, the Biden administration, the transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, right? Remember Pete, little Pete, who him and his husband, they had adopted a baby, and he took some maternity leave or whatever the hell he took. That Pete Buttigieg, the guy who tried running for president, but he's just so unlikable, right? That even Joe Biden beat him. I mean, that's how unlikable he was. But he got brought on board as a transportation secretary. This is the same idiot, folks, who said, oh, you don't like higher fuel prices, you can go buy an electric vehicle. Yeah, that made a lot of sense, right? It's like, well, if I could afford a $60, $70, $80,000 EV, I wouldn't be complaining about $4 gas. And that's back when gas was $4, folks. Gas is as high as it's ever been. For the 9th straight day in a row, gas hits a new all-time high. Unfreaking believable. Well, folks, back when he first said go get an EV, gas was like $3 in some places. It's unbelievably high. Where I'm at, over $5 a gallon. Folks, a year and a half ago, it was $2 a gallon. That's what I remember seeing. $2 a gallon. And that may have been for premium. Anyways, I was like, hey, right around $2. That looks great. It's over $5. And premium is going to cost you almost $6 where I'm at. And I'm not in California. Crazy ass wacko left-wing California. You can expect those kind of prices there. But here, it's like, what the hell? Unbelievable. But these left-wingers, they love it, folks. Anyways, Pete Buttigieg, he's back. Only this time, he says, well, if there's a baby formula shortage, truckers can work longer hours. What? Once again, this is a guy married to a guy who has a baby. I wonder if Pete Buttigieg has any problem getting baby formula, because I don't think he can breastfeed. I don't think his little husband can breastfeed either, no matter how much they want to or how hard they try. Even if he takes estrogen and he grows some moobs, he's still not going to be able to lactate, right? That's a special gift that only women have. This Fruit Loop, folks, this ding dong. Is he really the transportation secretary, or is he just a rainbow flag having politician who gets appointed to a job for name recognition? Truckers, folks, are limited by law as to how much they can drive, right? They have logs, driving logs. They have to go, they can only go so many hours, and then they have to stop, and they have to get rest for so many hours. They're only allowed so many hours. Now, the way the economy is, if you have a job and you're not getting free money from the government, you work your ass off already. You already work the 50 or 60 hour max that you're allowed to. And then this jackass comes along and says, oh, you can just work longer hours. You can't legally. Cannot work legally more hours. As much as you want, you can't. So if there's already a shortage of goods in the country, if there's already a transportation shortage in the country, and people are already working their ass off, how are they going to work even more when it's not legally allowed? Right? Here's the bad movie scene. Trucker going down the road and he's like, yeah. Right? He puts it on autopilot. There's no autopilot for truckers. Sorry. It just doesn't happen. These people, right? They're hitting the super highway to destruction, right? At top speed. They're doing everything they can to absolutely ruin this freaking country. Are you ready? Are you prepared? Have you gone to the preparedmind.club? Once again, this is your store. You guys pay for it. The preparedmind.club, CLUB, your store. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, everything, folks. We've got everything for sale there that we can possibly get. Radios for communication. You guys know I love my little radios. Are you prepared? President Trump was in office. Energy prices were very low. That's great, right? Not a perfect president. No one ever is, but energy prices were low. They managed to keep the stock market and the economy rolling well enough. Inflation was present and very bad, but it wasn't horrifying. Day one, Biden comes in and kills the Keystone Pipeline, shuts down oil projects, and just the other day we discovered is still removing oil leases, taking away oil leases, canceling oil leases in Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico. Thanks, Biden. Biden did that to us, folks. He's gone around the world, folks, begging for energy, begging for oil from OPEC and OPEC plus countries. Now get this. Got a breakthrough here, right? Biden is now going to import Venezuelan oil to meet U.S. demand. This is kind of a freaking mystery, right? Energy independence policies that Trump put in place, they made sense, right? Certainly made sense to me to be paying $2 a gallon for fuel, because it don't make a bit of sense why I'm paying $5 and then some, right? So Venezuelan brute Maduro, right? It's in charge, right? We had sanctions upon sanctions upon sanctions against Venezuela. That's why their currency failed, the bolivar. They went into hyperinflation. Their country has been suffering SHTF, Mad Max, very bad. But here we are. Now, folks, that's an ally of the United States. Instant, folks, instant head scratcher. I'm like, how does that make a lick of sense, right? Russia's really bad. Oh, but we'll get oil from them as much as we can. But now they're going to get oil from Chavez. There's a couple problems, though, with getting oil from Venezuela, apart from the fact that they're an extreme, brutal, socialist regime. Apart from that, right? Apart from the fact that it's completely corrupt. Venezuela is completely corrupt. Oh, on top of that, they're also trading partners with Russia, right? Russia does what they can to trade with whoever they can to try and make some sort of living in the global market. So they trade with, I thought we hated Russia. Why are we getting Russian oil and Venezuelan? There's another problem, folks. Venezuelan crude is not cheap. And it's very heavy. It's not good quality, which means we'll spend a lot of money trying to refine that sludge, and we won't get as much energy out of that sludge. But, you know, it's better to work harder, pay more, and get less. That's the Build Back Better program right there. Gee whiz, right? That's the Democrat Party altogether. Unbelievable. Just wow, right? Just a big, giant, fat wow. Have you got your questions into Jolene? I sure hope so. I sure hope you do, because I want to hear what you have to say. The left wing, folks, it doesn't matter how stupid they are, with the exception of, let's see, Jimmy Dore, who's a comedian, socialist philosopher on YouTube. He can carefully identify who's screwing up in the Biden administration, but his solutions are just as bad, more socialism, right? And there's not many of these leftists. The rest of them are marching lockstep. They goose step with one another in line, no matter how dumb the saying. The left wingers in this country want to bring us down. Yeah, I mean, green hair, blue hair, purple hair, pink hair, all of these people, they are just out of their gourds. But it's not just a U.S. problem. This socialist stupidity it's got a grip on the whole world. Now, the European people, so you know, and I know, the European people, they don't like what their governments are doing. They have been protesting louder than Americans have ever protested. They have violent protests. A couple of years ago, they did the yellow vest protest. Remember that? Macron and his stupid gas tax. They said, screw you, Macron, we ain't paying it. And they put on their yellow vested protest. Then all the left-wing jackasses came out and were like, we're going to take over this protest with their black vests. And it's like, it's not a black vest protest, you jackasses. It's a yellow vest, and it's about the fuel prices. Anyways, right? the European people don't like what the European governments are doing because the European governments are every bit as stupid as the Democrat governments here in America. Germany's foreign minister, folks, is blaming Russia for causing hunger, brutal hunger. That's right. The foreign minister is blaming Russia. Whose fault is this, folks? See, this is where history is written by the victor. So, Annalena Baerbock, I'm looking at a picture of her right here. She looks to be 30 to 40. She also looks to be pretty stupid. You know, you can look at someone, you can tell they're smart, like Nina Jankowicz. You look at her and you go, I'm sorry, right? I don't think you have two brain cells to rub together. You just look a little lost, right? Same here, right? History is going to record whose fault this is. Will history properly record it? That's my question. Will history properly record who caused all these problems? Well, it kind of really comes down to who wins the elections and who wins the wars, who wins the struggle for freedom and liberty, and who has to submit. I don't plan on submitting because I can't live as a slave, folks. No siree. Well, I tell you what, though, I think it's time for your questions.
Are you ready?
What's amazing, folks, is as bad as SHTF is right now, as bad as it is, our channel is only as popular as it's ever been, right? I ask you to hit the super chat button. I ask you to share the email. I just ask you to hit the thumbs up. I say, please come on over to Patreon, sign up. It's only $2 a month, and you get a whole lot more than videos. You get links, news stories, other videos on topics we're not allowed to talk about because of social media, people that are offshore, etc. Right? We should be over 1 million subscribers. We should be as powerful as CNN, but we're being shadow banned. We're being silenced. They want to keep this quiet. They want to keep all of us hidden away, right? It's like the bad movie scene, right, where nobody makes sense except the people who aren't allowed to talk. Right? There's 5 or 6 people, and they're all like, "Let's go into that dark cave over there because that's a good idea." And there's one person going, "I don't think you should go in that cave. There's a story about a monster around here," right? And you're like, "Yeah." The rest of them are so stupid they're going to go into the cave, the cave where the monster's at, right? And they do it, and that's why it's a bad movie. All right, let's get to your questions. And I'm sure they're going to fall right in line with the rest of what we've been discussing. All right. Latin American Preparedness checks in, and he's got a great topic. He says, Biden's solution to the out-of-control rental crisis is very similar to the USSR. That's the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. That would be the communists. He says, government became a landlord, forcing people to live in projects in major cities. Looks like another way for the government to gain control. Thoughts? Oh, absolutely. You see, the government loves to create problems, right? They make it more and more and more difficult for business, for private individuals to do anything. More regulations, more taxes, more burdens, more difficult. And it's like, screw it. I give up. I'm not doing this anymore. Government wants that because then they go, oh, we got a crisis. We got a crisis, right? They've screwed the whole economy up. And so now rent is skyrocketing. While on the other hand, there's supposedly more houses, more apartments, more commercial buildings that are, they're vacant. They're uninhabited because there's areas where no one wants to live. There's no jobs. They want way too much money. The bank is upside down underwater and they can't lower their price. And so they're getting banker bailouts. And so the government steps in and goes, oh yeah, we've got a rent crisis, right? Hell, real estate in many areas is off the hook, right? So much so that it's just crazy, folks. Like I guess down in Texas and over in Florida, it's pretty bad. The cost of rent, the cost of housing, the cost to buy, it's pretty much nuts. So what is government's solution? It's always high density, low quality housing. So Biden's solution is going to be very, very similar. You bet, right? They've already started this, by the way. They've already tested it. They're running with it. It's going to become announced. Have you seen these places where they have basically like a barracks system where you don't even own an apartment, you own a bed? It's very much like Japan. Japan has this, where you own an area of a room, right? It's a cubby hole. It's like 5 feet wide, 8 feet deep, and maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. And you own this cube, right? They want that for us. Well, but isn't that what we all need? A very small footprint. You don't need a whole house. How dare you think you need a house with a couch and a living room and a bathroom and a bedroom and a closet? You should only need enough clothes to make it a few days, and then you can go wash them. You should only need enough stuff, right, to get by in life. Right? Food, you can buy a meal every time you're hungry. You don't need to have a refrigerator. You don't need to have a pantry. You don't need to have 3 months of food stored in case of an emergency. You see, in that situation, you're completely reliant on the government for this low-cost housing system that they're developing, for this living meal to meal. Talk about becoming reliant on government on your meals. You see, a prepper, on the other hand, and a free American, a patriot, is completely different than that. 180 degrees different. I had to look at my foot. Anyways, it's 180 degree different, right? We want to be free to make our own decisions, to live as we want. You know, I don't live huge, right? Enough room for a bed, enough room for a desk, little kitchen table, enough kitchen to make some food, right? A bathroom. Thank you. That's all I need. But I don't need to be told that my area is going to be 8 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot tall. And that's all you get. And that's all the government's going to give you. This is what they're doing, though. This is where they're pushing us. They talked about this years and years ago, right? We need to get everyone living in the cities. Everyone needs to be in the city. You don't need to be in the country ruining the pristine countryside. What do you mean ruining, right? The countryside provides food, timber, recreation, comfort, but they want everyone in the city. I wonder who gets to use all of those vast natural resources then. Well, if you're not allowed to be in the country outside of a city, then you'll never know. I guarantee you, though, it'll be the rich people. And by the way, the novella, Brave New World, Aldous Huxley's dystopian look into a technocracy running the world, was very interesting. They all lived in the city and they weren't allowed to go out without special permissions. But there were humans living in other parts of the planet, in very old primitive societies, clinging to their superstitions and their religions, living interesting and far less satisfying lives according to the leadership. We're going to see what kind of world we get, folks. We're going to see what kind of world we get. All right, who's next? Jolene on the line. We've got Kathy Lamaster, who has changed the moniker, the picture there. Awesome. Looks like you got a tall dude with a big old gray beard. Awesome. Gotta love the gray beards. All right, this is what she says. Congress is announcing talks of UFOs for the first time, I believe they said, in 40 years. Why now? Another shiny distraction? That's right. Congress has had some UFO talks. Now they're unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. That's the new designation, but it may not stick because it's still the same thing. It's still UFO. unidentified flying object is still unidentified aerial phenomena. Well, if it's in the air, it's flying around. Anyways, they're having talks for the first time in about 40 years. Over 40 years, back in the 70s, right? Why now? It's a great question. Why now? Another shiny distraction? Number one, yes, it is very distracting. The Biden administration, what haven't we dealt with yet? The Hunter Biden laptop. We have not dealt with the Hunter Biden laptop, have we? Nope. Thank you, Mr. T, for the great bumpers. The Hunter Biden laptop. What the heck? How about the corruption in Ukraine? How about why do we need to send $40 billion over there? How about baby formula, southern border, cost of fuel, availability of regular food, energy crisis, blackouts, rolling blackouts in the spring? They need a real distraction. So they're setting up this deal, right? They're setting it up. Now, interestingly, way back years and years ago, decades ago, before he died, Wernher von Braun, head of NASA through the space program that was Mercury, Gemini, and then the Apollo missions, he said, look, there's going to be a series of false flags, black swans, if you want to call them that, series of events that are government shams. And they're going to need to do these for very specific reasons. And ultimately, they're going to have a fake alien invasion. It's fascinating that Wernher von Braun was talking about that decades before it's needed, meaning these are old plans and they've had it in place for a long time. I believe, folks, that there are, this is just my belief, that there are other civilizations much more technologically advanced than us, and that they have been providing this technology in exchange for God knows who knows what, with the governments of the world, whether it's the Soviet Union and Russia or the United States or all of them. And they have had this up their sleeve for quite some time. They had it in the 1950s, folks, when UFOs started becoming very commonly seen. And, it all kind of started in 1947, of course, with the Roswell crash. A lot of things happened in 1947, like Operation High Jump, where the Navy sent an expeditionary force, 4,000 men down to the Antarctic. And apparently they got their asses kicked by a bunch of aerial vehicles that came out of the ocean. Looked a lot like UFOs. Anyways, through the 50s and then the 60s, cheesy bad movies, when they got a flying saucer hanging from a string and it's kind of wobbling and not realistic. They didn't have good models back then. They didn't have CGI computers. And it was all very primitive filmmaking. And so it was pretty cheesy. They were bad movies. But they kept letting us know, right, that an alien invasion could happen. Right? The Day the Earth Stood Still is one of the greatest movies where the aliens land and say, take us to your leader. War of the Worlds, right? Alien invasion movie. Independence Day is a more modern version, a 90s movie, where they show up. They want to take over. So we have to give all power over to the government. We have to kiss the government's ass. We have to, because government's going to fix the problem. But yeah, so why UFOs? Why now? Why are they distracting us? Is that why they're doing this? Jim Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan, Republican out of Ohio, he was not happy about this. He goes, with all the other problems, you guys want to start talking about UFOs now? Now, I have to admit, I would like the government to come absolutely clean, 100% clean with the UFO issue, the alien issue, the technology, the true nature of space. I would like that all cleared up. Just break it to us. Let us have it the hard way, all at once. This is the nature of the universe. These are the aliens. This is the technology. This is how long they've been here. Right? But will we get the truth? If we can't get the truth, about Hunter Biden's laptop, we're not going to get the truth about the alien question. So why bring it up? As if Congress can do anything. Folks, Congress, during the entire Trump administration, couldn't get the FBI to come clean about anything having to do with Russiagate, with the Steele documents, the Steele dossier, the lies about Trump and Russia collusion. They couldn't get them to come clean on that. They think they're going to get Majestic 12 and other top secret, super buried programs to come clean. Right? Every now and then they introduce a new aircraft and they go, see, this is what we've been working on. It's like, you've been spending trillions of dollars to create an aircraft that can't fly in the rain. Thanks a lot. Good job, guys. All right. Wow. I tell you what, Kathy, the alien thing is going to come into play. Right? They keep pushing the asteroid thing as well. A meteor, an asteroid is going to hit the Earth. Some sort of other, shall we say, cosmological problem. And then they'll follow that with the alien thing. You know, everything, they have to play every card first. All right, they can't just jump and skip to the end. We're going to have to deal with everything. All righty, it's a great topic, though. Expect there to be more of it. Now, here's the thing. This is Congress. This is not a joke. It's not a bad movie set. Right? We discuss real things here. So, yeah, what's the deal, Congress? Why now? Great, great, great topic. All righty, Jolene. I mean, the alien question. Good golly. We got Eli in the Wolverine state. And by the way, while we're talking about Wolverines, see these raccoon eyes? Been out in the sun doing some training on the water. Folks, get in shape. Bicycle, run, walk, swim, train. Get used to hardships, difficulties, operating while tired, right? Learn to sleep in uncomfortable places like the floor, because you may end up sleeping. Learn how to sleep in a lawn chair, because one of these nights you may be sitting in a lawn chair inside the bushes, making sure no one comes into your property. All right. Anyways, Eli in the Wolverine state says, sending potatoes to Mexico for the first time in 40 years during a potato shortage in the U.S. This is interesting. We're sending potatoes to Mexico. I have missed this one. Somehow I missed the potato thing with everything else that's freaking happening. Now, Mexicans don't like potatoes. Central and South Americans don't like potatoes. Well, they really should. They shouldn't have any problem with them at all, in fact. The potato, folks, was found in the Americas. The Native Americans in, I think, North, Central, and South America had potatoes. They had maize or corn, as we now call it. They had a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit that we didn't have over in Europe prior to Western civilization coming in. You know, tomatoes, squashes. There's so much that was growing here in America. Potatoes. Well, the cheapest, easiest, fastest growing stuff is what we typically grow. For some reason, they like corn or maize because it works with the culture and the diet and everything else down in Mexico. Why are they having a problem, a shortage with corn? Now, we did have this during, I think, all the way back in the Bush administration. There was a shortage of corn. And everyone looked around and said, why are we turning our corn here in North America, in the United States of America, why are we turning it into ethanol? Why are we adding it to our gasoline? Number one, it reduces the efficiency of gasoline motors by adding ethanol. But they're saying, oh, but it burns clean, so it cleans up the air. That's the lie that they started that under. And then the fact that it takes more energy to convert corn into ethanol than you actually get out of the ethanol once you burn it. So it's energy negative. But the reason it exists is because it's supposed to clean the air and, well, the government subsidizes it. I sure wish the government would subsidize me. How about sending me $1 million a year so that I don't grow chickens or so that I don't do something, right? I mean, how many farms have you heard of? Well, they didn't plant their crops this year because the government decided there's too much of the crop they have, too many sugar beets. So they paid farmer X $1 million to not plant sugar beets. Interesting. Wow, paying people to not do something. Anyways, now apparently Mexico's messed up their system, so we're going to send potatoes down there. And we, folks, don't only have a potato shortage in this country, we're having a chicken shortage, a beef shortage, a swine shortage, hog, pork. We're having a baby formula shortage. We're going to start just sending stuff overseas, kind of like we had an oil shortage. So Biden opens the oil reserves in the United States of America and fills several ships full of that oil, and then sends that oil to Europe. Why are we sending our reserves, our products overseas when we're already having shortages of our own? Now, do I want Mexicans to starve? No. Central Americans to starve? No, I do not. But the question is, why is it that for the first time in 40 years, this is now occurring? What has changed? Aren't we supposed to be smarter, more advanced, more technically savvy, more capable, better with agricultural production so that we get more yield per acre? Why is it now that it's so low? What the hell is happening? Is government taking a larger percentage of what is being produced and hiding it away for themselves? Have you considered that, folks? That, well, they supposedly shut down a baby food factory, but somehow the Biden administration got enough baby food to send by the pallets and truckloads, literal truckloads and pallets down to the Mexican border, and pallets and truckloads sent over to Ukraine. Has the federal government also taken baby formula and stored it away in some cavern or hole in the ground somewhere? Is the Mexican government doing that with corn? Is that why they're having a shortage? So the land of plenty, the land of milk and honey, the United States of America, land of the free and home of the brave. We're supposed to have a super drought this year, folks, a super drought. But we need to send our food to another country. I don't think we should do that until every potato shed in America is packed to the brim. If anyone has ever seen a potato shed, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Up in Oregon, Idaho, Northern California, Northern Nevada, huge potato areas. Soil and climate are just right for it. We should be planting the ever-loving shit out of potatoes and storing them, because potatoes store a long time. Is that why we're sending potatoes down to Mexico? Because they store a long time? Well, corn stores a long time. You know, take it off the cob, dry it, whatever, turn it into masa, cornmeal. Yeah. Food stores a long time, folks. It stores a very long time. Why doesn't Mexico have any food storage? Why doesn't Central America, those countries and the people there, have food storage? Why are we having shortages now? Is an asteroid going to strike us? Are the aliens going to invade? Thank God I got a bunker. Unbelievable what is happening. All right. Thank you, Eli and the Wolverine State. Great topic. As usual, you guys have superior topics to bring up. I cover a bunch of stuff, and then you've got more stuff. And I really enjoy seeing what you're thinking about, what's on your mind. And if you're on YouTube, by the way, you could come to Patreon. It's only $2 a month. It's only 7 cents a day. And you can join us for free, no additional charge, Monday through Friday, live, and do the Q&A and bring your questions in here. And we're getting new names all the time. I'm hearing about it from Mooman and Jolene, that we're getting some great new participants in the question section, in the comments, because not everyone's comments end up right here, like Bonnie Blue's comments. A lot of people are just commenting in the background, having conversations and questions with others. On the Prepared Mind and our network, we help one another in the comments section. Now we got Bonnie Blue. Here's a statement. She says, people in the American Southwest need to be prepared with their go bags and things to evacuations for wildfires. The wildfires have already started, if I've heard the news correctly, Bonnie. But yeah, expect it to get far worse. 2 years ago, California had the worst fire ever. The fire burn areas burned in together and created one massive, huge burn area. More California burned a couple of years ago than has ever burned, period, in any fire ever, period. And it was allowed by Governor Newsom. And that's, I'm going to call him all kinds of names. Governor Newsom actually showed up in a town not far from where I used to live, over the mountain and through the dale to a place called Greenville. And I'd actually driven through Greenville once. It's a cute little quaint mountain town in extreme Northern California. You would think nothing bad could ever happen because there's beautiful rivers and trees and it's green. Greenville burned to the ground, folks. Not just the forest, but the houses and the city burned to the freaking ground. Newsom showed up. Governor Newsom got out of his vehicle, took a few photos of him with the destruction. And before the locals could say, what the hell? We got some questions for you, pal. He got back in his vehicle and took off. It was a photo op for him. Oh, look at the tragedy and damage. Good thing I'm president, or good thing I'm governor. I mean, I wish I was president. Trust me, that piece of crap is going to try running for president at some point. That was just Northern California, folks. Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Montana. I'm just working my way east, am I not? Right? How about Wyoming? How about Montana? How about the Dakotas? How about down south? Would you be shocked and surprised if Mississippi started burning? Alabama? Georgia? What if we start having forest fires up through South and North Carolina? The Carolinas start burning, West Virginia. Would you be surprised? I wonder why we're having all these fires, folks. I wonder who's starting them. Arsonists, right? And even though it never got a whole lot of news play internationally or at the national level, it seemed like every fire in California when I was there, if it was not legitimately started by a lightning strike, it was started either by a control burn where the government went in and said, we're going to burn some garbage and some slash on this hill, then it gets out of control. It's like, brilliant move, California. Or it would be a California state employee or someone who works for one of the firefighting companies would go out and set fires intentionally so that they would have a job where they could make huge amounts of money. And they didn't care, folks, that they burned down the forests. What do they give a shit? These people are sick. Oh, not to mention, out of Portland, Antifa and other left-wing lunatics went out into rural Oregon and rural Washington state and set fires to punish the people. Right? They don't like people, folks. They don't like America. They don't like freedom. They hate everyone. Okay, Uman checks in, says, I saw that Madison Cawthorn got primaried. Not sure if John has mentioned it, been in and out. I have not mentioned it. I've got the story right there. Yeah, Madison Cawthorn was freshman. He did his first term as a congressman. He lost in the primary, right? He came out and tried exposing the scumbags in Washington, D.C. He said, hey, look, these people, they're out there having orgies and taking drugs and cocaine and shit. Right? They're not good people. And don't forget, California's own Republican minority leader of the House, McCarthy, scumbag McCarthy, he warned Madison Cawthorn, hey, you better watch your act, boy. You better watch it. You better back off. And they took him out. Now, I am not going to question the legitimacy of the election because it's a primary. But I sure hope someone else does. I sure hope someone else looks for fraud. That's not my job, and I'm not suggesting that fraud has been committed. But I do think that in every election, whether the Democrat wins or a Republican, whether it's a state race or a federal race, whether it's a primary or the main event, I think there ought to be an audit. If we're going to have auditors auditing the shit out of businesses for taxes, why don't we have auditors auditing our elections, making sure they're fair, honest? I think that would be a fine thing to have. The objective, of course, being to overturn bad elections. That would be good, right? Because we need to protect our republic. I do. I think that Madison Cawthorn was very popular, but he lost to another Republican because rhinos wanted him out of there. Washington, D.C. wanted him out of there, right? You want to be a stand-up guy and have integrity? Well, they're going to try and get rid of him. Don't worry, they're going to try and get rid of Boebert. They're going to try and get rid of everyone. Matt Gaetz, Marge Taylor Greene, Big Marge. They're going to try and get rid of everyone. Gohmert. They're going to try and get rid of everyone they can. Now, what's fascinating and terrific is President Trump has been endorsing much more conservative constitutional candidates. And I think his record was 83 wins, 3 losses, and a couple of undecided still. So Trump is out there stumping, the Trump stump, trying to get real Republicans and get rid of rhinos. That's a good thing. His record, pretty damn good. Dr. Oz is trying to run to get in there. Television medical personality, Dr. Oz, looks like they're in a count-off, right, in the primary. The powers that be, folks, are scared to death that you are going to stay awake. You've woken up, they're afraid you're going to stay awake. I say prep to action. Get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Get that together. Get it together. Get that off to the side. And then take some action. Call your senators. Call your congressmen. Get active. Also, right, join, volunteer, work with the local election board, and get into that process. Get in there and make a difference. Make sure that there is no fraud. Find people who are not real conservative Republicans and get them the hell out of there, right? Nominate at the local level only real constitutional conservative candidates to send to the state level and to Washington, D.C. Right? If we don't do that, folks, the entire country is going to go the way of the dodo. The entire country is going to turn into California, Illinois, and New York City. Pretty scary stuff. Pretty scary stuff. Well, it looks like we've got to the end of the hour. As much as I'd like to stay here, folks, I need to get some food. I need to get some prepping done, get some paperwork done. I need to make some phone calls. My job never ends here at the Prepared Mind desk, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for supporting us, right, in every way that you do. Everyone does something a little different, it seems. Whether it's supporting the channel, supporting us with information, supporting other viewers with information and helping them. Whether it's like Uman, who started the rsyndicate.com. It's a prepping channel clearinghouse for everyone who does anything having to do with preppers and patriotism and food and you name it. You name it, from survival onwards. You guys, be cool. Be safe. And I wish we could wake up and this bad movie would all be over. But until that day comes, chance favors the prepared mind. Aren't you glad you are a prepper? Godspeed, Semper Fi.